The Starlight's neon sign hummed outside my window, its green and yellow glow flickering like a heartbeat against the black Arizona night. Route 66 stretched beyond it, an endless line of asphalt that carried dreamers and drifters, their headlights slicing through the desert's dark. Inside room 9, the air was thick with the scent of old carpet and cigarette smoke, the kind that lingers no matter how many times you air out the place. I sat on the edge of the bed, my fingers tracing the frayed hem of my black dress, the fabric cool against my skin. The clock on the nightstand glowed 10:23 p.m., its red digits stark against the dim light of the lamp, its shade stained with years of dust. My name's Rose. I'm 29, though the years out here make me feel older, like the desert's carved its lines into me. I work the motels along this stretch of highway, Seligman to Winslow, sometimes as far as Holbrook. It's a life of motel rooms and fleeting glances, of men who pay for a night and leave before dawn. I don't judge them, and they don't judge me. That's the deal. But tonight, as I waited for the knock on the door, something felt different, like the air was holding its breath. The curtains, thin and faded, fluttered slightly, though the window was shut tight. The desert's hum was constant outside, a low drone broken by the occasional growl of a truck passing by, its tires singing on the pavement. I lit a cigarette, the match flaring bright for a moment, and watched the smoke curl upward, lazy and slow. My nails were painted a deep plum, but one was chipped, a tiny flaw that seemed louder than it should. I glanced at the mirror across the room, my reflection a shadow under the lamp's glow, dark hair loose around my shoulders, eyes lined with kohl, lips painted a shade too bold for a place like this. He was early. The client, I mean. He'd called an hour ago, his voice quiet but clear, asking for Rose at the Starlight Inn, room 9. Cash up front, no questions. Standard. But there was something in his tone, a hesitation, maybe, or a weight that made me pause. I'd heard a lot of voices over the years, but it stuck with me, like a song you can't shake. The lamp buzzed, its light flickering, casting shadows that danced across the walls, faded stripes, like the ghost of some old decorator's dream. I stood, smoothing my dress, and checked my phone. No messages, just the time, 10:25 p.m. I crossed to the dresser, my heels sinking into the carpet, and leaned against it, the wood cool under my palms. I thought about the diner across the road, its jukebox stuck on Johnny Cash, the coffee bitter but warm. I thought about the kid I used to be, back in Tulsa, dreaming of stages and spotlights. Funny how dreams fade, how they turn into nights like this, waiting in a motel room for a stranger. A knock came at the door, soft but deliberate, pulling me back. My heart skipped, though I'd done this 100 times. I stubbed out the cigarette in the ashtray, its glass heavy and scratched, and took a breath. Coming, I called, my voice steady, practiced. I crossed to the door, my steps slow, and opened it. He stood there, silhouetted against the neon glow, a tall figure in a dark coat. His hair was sandy blonde, streaked with gray, and his eyes, hazel, warm but guarded, met mine. He was older than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with a face that looked like it had seen too much sun and too little sleep. He carried a small leather satchel, worn at the edges, and his hands were steady, one holding the strap, the other tucked in his pocket. "Rose," he said, my name soft in his mouth, like he was tasting it. His voice was the same as on the phone, low and careful, and it sent a shiver through me, though I couldn't say why. "That's me," I said, stepping aside. "Come in." He hesitated, just for a second, his eyes searching mine like he was looking for something. Then he stepped inside, and I closed the door, the lock clicking into place. The room felt smaller with him in it, the air heavier, like we were sharing a secret neither of us had spoken yet. He set the satchel down by the bed, its leather creaking softly, and glanced around the room. "Nice place," he said. His voice dry, almost a joke. I smiled, leaning against the dresser. "It's got charm, if you squint." He chuckled, a low sound that warmed the room, and sat in the chair by the window, his coat still on. The neon light filtered through the curtains, painting his face in shades of green and yellow, and for a moment, he looked like a stranger from a movie, someone who belonged somewhere else. I sat on the bed, crossing my legs, and lit another cigarette, offering him one. He shook his head. "Don't smoke," he said. "Quit a while back." "Smart," I said, exhaling a thin stream of smoke. "Wish I could." He watched the smoke curl, his eyes distant, like he was seeing something I couldn't. "You ever get tired of this?" he asked, his voice quiet. "The road, the motels?" The question caught me off guard. Most men don't ask. They don't care. I looked at him, trying to read him, but his face was a mask, calm but unyielding. "Sometimes," I said, my voice softer than I meant. "But it's what I know." He nodded, like he understood, and leaned back in the chair, his hands resting on his knees. I noticed a ring on his left hand, a plain silver band, worn but polished. It wasn't a wedding ring, not quite, but it was something, a story he wasn't telling. I wanted to ask, but I didn't. "That's not how this works." The silence stretched, not awkward but heavy, like we were both waiting for something. Outside, a truck roared past, its headlights sweeping through the curtains, throwing light across the room. I shifted, uncrossing my legs, and stubbed out the cigarette. "You got a name?" I asked, though I didn't expect an answer. "Eli," he said, surprising me. His eyes met mine, and there was something in them, a flicker of recognition, or maybe memory. It made my stomach twist, like I'd seen him before, though I knew I hadn't. "Eli," I repeated, testing the name. It felt familiar, like a word I'd forgotten. I stood, crossing to the window, my dress brushing my thighs. The neon sign buzzed outside, its light flickering, and I felt him watching me, his gaze steady, like he was memorizing me. "You remind me of someone," he said suddenly, his voice low, almost a whisper. I turned, my heart racing. "Who?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood, moving to the window beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of him, though we didn't touch. "Someone I knew a long time ago," he said finally. "Someone I lost." My breath caught, and I looked at him, searching his face. There was pain there, raw and unguarded, and it stirred something in me, something I'd buried deep, under years of motel rooms and strangers' hands. I wanted to ask more, to know who she was, what she meant to him, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I reached out, my fingers brushing his sleeve, just for a moment. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. He looked at me, his eyes softening, and for a second, I thought he'd touch me back. But then the satchel on the floor shifted, a soft thud, like something heavy had settled inside. His face changed, the softness gone, replaced by something harder, something scared. "I shouldn't be here," he said, his voice tight. "I shouldn't have come." I stepped back, my heart pounding. "What's in the bag, Eli?" I asked, my voice sharp, though I tried to keep it steady. He didn't answer, just stared at the satchel, his hands clenched at his sides. The neon sign buzzed louder, then flickered out, plunging the room into shadow, the lamp's glow the only light left. And then, from the satchel, came a sound, a soft, rhythmic ticking, like a clock counting down to something I couldn't see. The ticking filled the room, steady and relentless, like a heartbeat from another world. I froze, my eyes locked on the satchel, its leather gleaming faintly under the lamp's weak glow. Eli didn't move, his hands still clenched, his face a mask of something I couldn't read, fear, maybe, or regret. The air felt thick, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Outside, the desert was silent, the neon sign dark, the highway empty except for the distant hum of a truck fading into the night. "Eli," I said, my voice low, "what's in there?" He looked at me, his hazel eyes catching the light, and for a moment, I thought he'd tell me. But then he shook his head, his jaw tight. "It's nothing you need to know, Rose," he said, his voice rough, like he was trying to convince himself. "It's not about you." "Not about me?" I laughed, sharp and brittle, stepping back toward the dresser. "You come here, to my room, with that thing, and you say it's not about me?" He flinched, like I'd hit him, and ran a hand through his hair, the gray strands catching the light. "I didn't mean it like that," he said. I didn't expect you." "Expect me?" I crossed my arms, my nails digging into my skin. "You called me, Eli. You asked for me." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I know, and I'm sorry. I thought I could do this, but," he trailed off, his eyes flicking to the satchel, the ticking louder now, insistent. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but something in his face stopped me. He looked like a man drowning, grasping for something to hold on to. I'd seen that look before, in the mirror, in the eyes of men who came through these doors. But with Eli, it was different. It wasn't just desperation, it was grief, deep and jagged, like a wound that never healed. I sank onto the bed, my hands gripping the edge, the mattress creaking under me. The lamp flickered, its light weaker now, and the room felt smaller, the walls closer. "Talk to me," I said, softer now. "If it's not about me, then what is it? Why are you here?" He paced to the window, his coat rustling, and stared out at the dark highway. The stars were bright now, sharp against the sky, and his reflection in the glass was faint, like a ghost. "I'm looking for someone," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Someone who's gone." My heart twisted, and I thought of his earlier words, someone I lost. "The woman you mentioned," I said. "Who was she?" He turned, his eyes meeting mine, and for the first time, I saw him clearly, not the client, not the stranger, but the man. His face was etched with lines, each one a story, and his eyes held a sorrow so deep it made my chest ache. "Her name was Sarah," he said. "She was everything. And then she was gone." I didn't know what to say. I'd heard stories like this before, men grieving lovers, wives, daughters, but Eli's voice carried something different, something that felt like it was reaching for me. I stood, crossing to him, stopping just short of touching him. "What happened to her?" I asked, my voice soft, like I was afraid to break him. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph, worn at the edges, its colors faded. He handed it to me, his fingers brushing mine, warm and steady. I looked down, and my breath caught. The woman in the photo was young, maybe 20, with dark hair and a smile that lit up the frame. She looked like me, not exactly, but close enough that it sent a chill down my spine. "She could be your sister," Eli said, his voice low. "That's why when I saw you, I thought," he stopped, shaking his head, like he couldn't find the words. I handed the photo back, my hands trembling. "I'm not her," I said, though the words felt hollow. "I'm just Rose." "I know," he said, taking the photo, his fingers lingering on mine. "But you make me remember." The ticking from the satchel grew louder, and I glanced at it, my heart racing. Is that about her? I asked, nodding toward the bag. He followed my gaze, his face tightening. In a way, he said. It's something she left behind. Something I have to finish. I didn't understand, but I didn't push. Not yet. Instead, I sat back on the bed, my hands clasped in my lap, and looked at him. Tell me about her, I said. Tell me about Sarah. He hesitated, then sat beside me, the mattress dipping under his weight. The lamp's glow warmed his face, softening the lines, and for a moment, he looked younger, like the man he might have been before the world broke him. She was a dreamer, he said, his voice soft. Always talking about the stars, about leaving this place, seeing the world. We were going to do it together. What happened? I asked, my voice barely audible. He looked down, his hands clasped, the ring glinting. She got sick, he said. Cancer. It was fast, too fast. One day she was laughing, planning our trip to Paris, and the next, he stopped, his voice breaking, and I felt it, the weight of his grief, heavy as the desert night. I reached out, my hand resting on his, just for a moment. His skin was warm, rough, and he didn't pull away. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it, more than I'd meant anything in a long time. We sat there, the ticking filling the silence, the lamp flickering like it was tired of holding on. I thought about my own life, the dreams I'd left behind, the nights I'd spent in rooms like this, pretending to be someone else. I thought about the girl I'd been, the one who believed in love, in forever. She was gone, but sitting here, with Eli, I felt her stir, like a memory waking up. Hours passed, the night deepening, the desert humming outside. We talked, about Sarah, about the road, about the things we'd lost. He told me about the places they'd planned to go, the songs she loved, the way she'd laugh at his terrible jokes. I told him about my childhood, about the summers in Tulsa, about the stage I'd never reach. We laughed, soft and careful, like we were afraid to break the moment. But the satchel was always there, its ticking a reminder that this wasn't forever. I tried to ignore it, to focus on Eli, on the warmth of his voice, the way his eyes softened when he looked at me. But it was there, a shadow at the edge of the room, a question I couldn't ask. Dawn was close now, the sky outside turning a soft gray, the stars fading. The lamp buzzed, its light nearly gone, and the air felt heavy, like it was waiting for something. Eli stood, stretching, and crossed to the window, looking out at the highway. I should go, he said, but he didn't move. I stood, my heart racing, and stepped toward him. Stay, I said, the word slipping out before I could stop it. Just a little longer. He turned, his eyes searching mine, and for a moment, I thought he'd say yes. But then his gaze flicked to the satchel, and his face changed, like a door closing. Rose, he said, his voice rough, there's something you need to know. Before he could finish, a sound came from outside, a low, steady hum, like an engine idling. Headlights swept through the curtains, sharp and bright, and the ticking from the satchel stopped, sudden and final, leaving a silence that felt like a scream. The silence was deafening, heavier than the ticking had been. The headlights outside cut through the room, throwing stark shadows across the walls, and Eli's face was pale, his eyes wide with something close to panic. I stood frozen, my hands clenched, the air thick with the scent of dust and fear. The lamp flickered one last time and went out, leaving us in the gray dawn light, the world outside waking up while ours seemed to stop. Eli, I whispered, my voice shaking, what's happening? He didn't answer. He moved to the window, peeling back the curtain just enough to look out. The engine's hum grew louder, steady and deliberate, and I heard the crunch of gravel, slow and measured, like someone walking toward the door. Eli's hand tightened on the curtain, his knuckles white, and I saw it again, the fear, raw and unguarded. "Stay back," he said, his voice low, urgent. He crossed to the satchel, his movements quick, and knelt beside it, unzipping it with a swift, practiced motion. I caught a glimpse of something inside, a small metal box, its surface scratched and dull, with a faint red light blinking on one side. My heart pounded, my mind racing with questions I didn't dare ask. "Eli," I said, stepping toward him, "tell me what's going on. Now." He looked up, his eyes meeting mine, and for a moment, I thought he'd shut me out again. But then he stood, the box in his hand, and his voice was steady, though it trembled at the edges. "It's hers," he said. "Sarah's. She made it, before she died. It's why I'm here." I stared at the box, its red light blinking like a heartbeat. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He hesitated, his thumb brushing the box's surface, like it was something sacred. "A message," he said. "Something she wanted me to deliver. I've been running with it, trying to find the right place, the right person." My stomach twisted, and I took a step back, my heels catching on the carpet. "And you thought I was her? The right person?" He shook his head, his eyes soft but fierce. "No, Rose. I thought you were a sign. A reason to stop running." The words hit me like a wave, stealing my breath. I wanted to believe him, to hold on to the warmth in his voice, but the engine outside roared, the headlights brighter now, and the gravel crunched again, closer. Eli's face hardened, and he slipped the box back into the satchel, zipping it shut. "I have to go," he said, his voice tight. "They're here." "Who's they?" I asked, my voice rising. "Eli, you can't just..." But he was already moving, grabbing the satchel and heading for the door. I reached for him, my fingers brushing his coat, but he turned, his eyes locking on mine. "Rose," he said, his voice low, urgent, "you're more than this place. More than this life. Don't forget that." And then he was gone, the door slamming shut behind him. I stood there, my heart pounding, as the engine outside revved, loud and angry. I ran to the window, pulling back the curtain, and saw a black SUV idling in the parking lot, its windows tinted, its engine growling like a beast. Eli was walking toward it, the satchel over his shoulder, his step steady but quick. A man stepped out of the SUV, his face hidden in the dawn's shadow, and Eli stopped, raising a hand, like he was trying to explain. I couldn't hear their words, but I saw the tension in Eli's shoulders, the way the other man's hand moved to his side, like he was reaching for something. My breath caught, and I pressed my hand against the glass, willing Eli to look back, to see me. But he didn't. He handed the satchel to the man, who took it and climbed back into the SUV. The engine roared, the tires spun, and they were gone, leaving a cloud of dust that glowed in the rising sun. I sank to the floor, my back against the wall, my hands shaking. The room was quiet now, the ticking gone, the lamp dead, the neon sign outside still dark. The desert hummed, soft and steady, and the first rays of sunlight crept across the carpet, warm and golden, like they didn't know the world had just shattered. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the door, waiting for it to open again. It didn't. The highway came alive outside, trucks roaring, life moving on. But I couldn't move, not yet. I thought about Eli, about Sarah, about the box and its blinking light. I thought about the girl I'd been, the one who dreamed of stages and spotlights, the one who believed in love. I thought about the woman I was now, and the woman I could be. I stood, my legs unsteady, and crossed to the dresser, where my cigarette pack lay, empty now. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, my makeup smudged, my hair tangled, my eyes red but alive. I didn't look like Rose, the escort, the shadow. I looked like someone who'd felt something real, even if it was just for a night. I packed my things, a few clothes, a comb, a half-empty bottle of perfume, and left the room, the door clicking shut behind me. The sun was high now, the desert awake, the highway shimmering under the heat. I walked to my car, a rusty Ford that had seen better days, and slid into the driver's seat. The leather was hot, the air thick with dust and memory. I didn't know where I was going. Not back to the motels, not back to the life I'd known. Maybe south, to Mexico, where the sea was warm and the nights were soft. Maybe east, to somewhere new, somewhere I could start again. All I knew was that Eli had seen me, really seen me, and that was enough to make me want more. I turned the key, the engine coughing to life, and pulled onto Route 66, the road stretching ahead, wide and open. The desert hummed, the sun burned, and in the rearview mirror, the Starlight faded, its dead neon sign a memory in the light. I thought about Eli, about the box, about the life he was running toward or away from. I thought about Sarah, about the dreams she'd left behind, and the message she'd wanted him to carry. And then, soft and uncertain, I started to hum, a tune from my childhood, something my mother used to sing. The notes were shaky, but they were mine, and they filled the car, the highway, the desert. For the first time in years, I felt alive, not whole, but alive, with a bittersweet ache in my heart that told me I was more than this place, more than this life. The road stretched on, and I drove, the sun climbing higher, the world waiting. Wherever Eli was, whatever he was carrying, I hoped he'd find his peace. And me? I'd keep driving, keep humming, keep searching for mine.